world over, all our brothers and sisters across the world in different countries, in different continents, in different time zones, in different conditions, in different health, wellness, happiness, whatsoever. Life is beautiful, life is short. The other day, just I think it was yesterday only, I was listening to Sadhguruji, and he was telling there are two things in life. One is time, second is energy. He says time is going, but energy we can control our own way if we want to contribute something substantial on this planet. That was a beautiful video which I enjoyed. Right, this evening, the last mile for water. Beautiful topic. 688th webinar, Jal Sanrakshan, Jal Hai To Kal Hai, Jal Hi Jeevan Hai. It's a series on water issues which comes every Friday evening at 5 p.m. from Singapore. Shri Anil Manocha ji, the Executive Director of the INO Exchange Asia Pacific, and he's also Senior Advisor ICSI, taking the water management strategies, innovations forward. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, I think Dr. Chitra Kapoor is very smart because next week is the Women Empowerment Week, and there's a Women Empowerment Day. That's the International Women Day, which is coming on 8th of March. So he has brought a very powerful woman almost 1 week before the actual event, 10 days. Great. We have got Madam Kalpana Ramesh this evening with us. She's joining us from beautiful city called Hyderabad. Don't think about biryani. We will give you after some time. She's the founder, the Rainwater Project. She's the founder, Kawa Design Studio. She is the head Water Initiative Sahe, member speaker TEDx Hyderabad, and she is also on IID Hyderabad chapter member. Great. It's a pleasure to have her. And with her so many credentials and so many hats she is wearing, I think this evening is going to be beautiful. That's why on the right side, पानी भी शांत है, सब कुछ अच्छे से है. And now, Basant Panchami ke baad, I think there are going to be the new leaf, new flowers, and wonderful greenery all around. Or as far as a couple of places in Punjab is concerned, sarson and all that will also come, sunflowers. Okay, great. Let me just move because water is very, very important. So International Chamber for Service Industry, ICSI, which is a link between India and the non-resident Indians world over, India's leading corporate houses and the government interface. From time to time, we keep giving the policies related to service industry because economy has got three components: agriculture, manufacturing, and services. Our chamber focuses on services sector with non-resident Indians and Indian corporate. During the pandemic, doctors, nurses, paramedical people, great warriors, they have done a great commendable job. At the same time, our teachers, our educators, our counselors, our principals, our directors, our vice chancellors, the entire education ecosystem has also done wonderful job because 1.65 billion children, they were away from schools, colleges, and institutions. That's the UNESCO statistics. And the more I read, better it is. India always believes that the whole world is one family, and that's a Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. All of us, we are together. We have been organizing during this pandemic a lot of programs. The Honorable Education Minister's daughter, Madam Arushi Nishank Pant, the environmentalist and social activist, founder Sparsh Ganga, she had come the other day along with the Honorable State Minister Jal Shakti Ratan Lal Kataria ji. And that was the World Youth Day when we got from the different countries, from the world over, the youth together. It was a wonderful moment when they all shared their vision, their ideas, and SDG 6, Sustainable Development Goal number 6 was shared. And thereafter, ladies and gentlemen, Friday, 23rd October onward, we have taken a beautiful journey with Anil Manocha ji, our senior advisor based out of Singapore. And the kind of a case studies which he brought on water, South Africa, then he brought Malaysia, then he took us to Brazil, then he talked about Singapore, complete case study, then Malaysia, Then from there, we had gone to Israel. Then we had come to Bangalore. Then we had come to Chennai. Then we had come to Punjab. And then a couple of other projects which he had discussed from time to time. We are also grateful to Madhukar Swambuji, the head research and development Vedico Economics, who has brought today's distinguished guest, Madam Kalpana Rameshji. We are grateful to him. Now, ladies and gentlemen, water crisis. Coming from the armed forces background, what we have witnessed in the First World War, Second World War, now the world over, this saying is going on. The next misunderstanding and the problem world over is going to be that's because of scarcity of consumable, drinkable, usable, living water. What we require for our day-to-day life, that would be the next global crisis if we do not wake up at the right moment. So during pandemic, we realized and we collected a lot of data from 152 countries, what exactly is going on. And then at the end, I will share with you that what is the outcome of these 152 countries. So water conservation is very, very important. And we always say it should be the integral part of our education ecosystem. Unless you don't have water saving, every drop of water, नलका चलता रहता है, टुप 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 उसमें से पानी गिरता रहता है, nobody bothers. Public places में जाओ, malls में जाओ, picture halls में जाओ, कहीं जाओ. Why don't we think? Look at those pictures of couple of places in the country where miles and miles people have to walk to get the consumable and drinkable and usable water. I think this journey will be feasible and possible and viable and applicable when we educate our women, because they are playing very important role for all of us. Let's empower our girl child. Let's help them the best possible way, because water has to be saved at home. It has to be saved at working places. It has to be saved in factories, public places, entertainment places, malls, retails, wherever we are talking about. And ladies are teachers also, they are counselors also, they are wife also, mother also, daughter-in-law also, sister also. All relations, when you talk about, lady plays very important role. Whenever you want to empower anything in this universe is the women. And that's why they say behind every successful man, there's always a woman. Yes, so rightly said. Youth empowerment is very important, which you all have to realize. Teacher empowerment. Yes, teachers, you've got a very important role to play. Now the new education policy is coming, 29th of July. It's a great day in the history. The new education policy is on the way. All of you will enjoy it so well. So thereby, sooner it is implemented, better it is going to be. So all of us, we should think of the new education policy, which should come up in India at the earliest. That is the way we have to work out. So let me write, because a lot of people are sending me WhatsApp. Let me write Namaskar, so they all will be in a position to join. So teachers empowerment. Education got to be relevant to my day-to-day life. It's very important. Why are we teaching theoretical subjects? I don't understand. And if I look back, and I mean, say I've walked this planet more than 70 years. There are certain subjects I have been taught in my life. सभी गुरुजनों को बहुत प्रणाम है. But those subjects I have never utilized in my life. Those chapters I have never utilized. I do not know what's the relevance, why I learned those things in my life. And there are certain things which I require every day in life. Why I am not being taught that? Why children are not given those kind of modules? That's something is very, very important. Anyway, startup, entrepreneurship, micro, small, and medium enterprise related to water management, water strategies, water conservation, whatever we have to do. And like just in the pre-run, Kalpana Rameshji was talking about that something to be done for rainwater harvesting, and she is developing a project. God bless her. Organic farming, when we talk about Israel, look at it, every drop of water, every droplet of the water, how they save and how they sprinkle and how they give appropriate quantity. We have to learn so many things from so many people. And as long as we'll keep learning, it's better, because that's the way the world will come at a global peace. Health and wellness is very important. What we eat, how we think, and how we live, how hygienic we live. And when you try and work out everything in a systematic way in your entire ecosystem, world will be better. Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, the new ministry initiative of the Honorable Prime Minister of India, and that is the sector skill councils now, and under the aegis of Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India. There are 37 sector skill councils we got to be taken care of. So water saving got to be a part of one of the sector skill councils. We are doing a beaming for 12 hours every day. We are trying to help out the different countries. We start early in the morning in the Brahm Muhurat. You would say, what is Brahm Muhurat? That's very interesting. 3:30 to 3:40 in the morning, all the planets, they come in a particular position. Try it out. And we are also coming in a particular position at that time. You would say, what do you do at 3:30 in the morning? Well, Australia and New Zealand is 5.5 hours ahead of us. So they start the day. We do the first program early in the morning, the beaming in Australia and New Zealand. And then, of course, we go across the entire world throughout the day. We are doing almost 28 webinars per week, and all are related to education empowerment. The entire world rests on three words: making, education, and relevant. And take anything of this universe, irrespective what you are, who you are, where you are, what you are doing, everything is related to education. That is something very important. And tomorrow, we are doing the first curtain raiser because the next week is International Women Week and International Women Day is coming on 8th of March. So we are starting tomorrow from Tamil Nadu, and Madam Chitrakala, who has come back from Germany, she's principal Chennai Public School at present. She's bringing approximately 1,000 people tomorrow together for the first curtain raiser, Women in Leadership Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19. That means post COVID-19, what should be the order of the world? And next slide is so wonderful. Our chamber is doing complete week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, finally, we are going for International Women Day. That is on Monday, 8th of March. Our chamber, teachers and youth empowerment, Atmanirbhar Bharat, when we talk about, we are dedicating our energy. Yes, that is that slide which I was telling you for 152 countries. The B2B is no more business to business. It is back to basics of life, sustainable development, basic food, basic health, and basic education. All of us, we have to live with the basic things in our life. We would be more happy. So, ladies and gentlemen, whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Let's get together. Let's be for a common cause to make this world a better place for living for all of us. So let's extend a very warm welcome to Kalpana Rameshji this evening. Fondly called Water Warrior, is an environmentalist advocating water conservation and restoration. A designer by profession and waxed into the city's dependency on water tankers, started working towards solving the water woes by implementing rainwater harvesting in and across the city. She's also a lead for water initiative SAHE, Society for Advancement of Human Endure, and drives initiatives like Save 10K, Boards, and Live the Lakes. Okay. Her current social startup is the Rainwater Projects, provides sustainable integrated water management solutions in public and private sector, along with the lakes as well as the well restoration and conservation. I think Punjab needs it very badly. Bangalore needs, Chennai needs, and there are a couple of other cities in India. Under the Blue Hyderabad campaign, she identified and restored traditional wells that helps in connecting communities and spaces by reviving traditional water harvesting structures. She is one of the 7 women honored on the Women's Day, that is International Women Day, to take over the Prime Minister's social media handle for a cause. So, ladies and gentlemen, we extend her a very warm welcome. And I request our session chair, our senior advisor from Singapore, Shri Anil Manocha ji, who is based out of Singapore. And every Friday you meet him, and every Friday he brings the session to all of us. So this evening, ladies and gentlemen, under his efforts and under his guidance, we move ahead. And I request Mr. Anil Manocha now to take over the session because he is a water management expert. He's a water management strategist, and I want to be now a student of class 5th standard joining one of the schools. Tung, tung. Anil Manocha ji.
Thank you, Gulshan ji. Good evening, everybody, and welcome, Madam Kalpana, to this series. Uh, we'll be talking about briefly about what we have done so far. And while we connect, give me a time. We have done about 19 webinars. Let me go back to stop sharing mode because I think it will not work today. We have done close to 19 webinars so far, starting from 28th of October. And since then, we had many speakers coming from various parts of the globe. We had people talking about the water sources. We have people talking about the water issues. We have people talking about water treatment, water quality, how to regenerate lakes, what type of technologies to be used. We also had people who spoke about food, water, energy nexus. So practically, we have covered almost all the technical aspects of water, demand side, supply side. Also, we have spoken about how do we treat the water. We discussed problems related to India, what is happening in Punjab, what is happening to underground water, what is happening to borewell water, and all those things. So these are all available in various series of webinar, and probably I can share it bit later once probably something wrong with my connection. So I will talk about this bit later. Uh, we also have talked about the what is happening in India with respect to water. As most of us will know that in the recent budget, a lot of money has been allocated in the water sector, and the water sector has been converted into a social enterprise. Means we all are aware that the water sector requires a lot of money, but it is economically unviable to invest that kind of money. So when you have a situation where you are sure that water demands have to be met, the water needs to be given to all the people, and the government has taken initiative that by 2031 we have to supply 24 by 7 water. And there is a gap with respect to sourcing water projects. So we have been in the current mission budgets, lot has been talked about investments in water sector, PPP modes, how the viable gap funding will be taken, how the uh, participation of communities will be involved, and how the issues of providing money and how do we engage private sector in water will be taken up. So all these things will come up very aggressively in the next few years. There will be a development in water sector in an urban side. There will be development in water sector in rural side. A lot of initiatives of water conservation will take place. And I always advocate, though people say that India is a starved country with respect to water resources, but I always say that we don't have a issue of water availability. We have a issue of water management. If we can manage the water well, we can provide 24 by 7 water to all the places, all the people. And to substantiate my claim, I'll always say like this, that in agriculture sector, we abuse 50% of water. We don't require the type of water we use in agriculture sector, and the involvement of drip irrigation technologies, the involvement, bringing of micro irrigation technologies, better seeds, will be able to conserve 50% of water in the agri sector. We waste close to 35% of water when the water leaves a water treatment system and comes to our houses. So there is a technology interface where you can use the satellite based technology to save this 38% of water which goes waste in the to the back to the earth. we have depleted the resources by taking more water from underground. And with the intervention of Atal Bhujal Yojana, and with the intervention of recharging the wells, and with the concepts of rainwater harvesting and all, probably we will be able to recharge the wells and come back to a situation. We have also talked about the how do we ensure that there's enough water available in the lakes and all. So there are close to 600,000 water bodies in India. So the exercise by using ecological principles, exercise using other technical interfaces to revive all those lakes have taken place. So we are seeing a lot of developments taking place in water sector in the times to come, and everyone has a role to play. From the learnings from Singapore water story and the learning from Cape Town water story, we learned that in case we have to solve the water issue, it is not only the technological interface is required. You have to change the mindset of people. We have to bring the change in the society, how they look at water as a resource. So there is to be a social interface. There has to be a knowledge interface. There has to be a interface when we use water. Water is not only uh, a subject of technical or physics or science. It's a subject which relates to our life. So we have to connect water to every aspect of life, and everybody has a role to play, whether you are a sociologist, whether you are a technologist, or whether you are a lawyer, or whether you are a teacher, or whether you are a consumer of a resource. Everyone has a role to play, and all of us, if we work together, we can see how we can bring the changes. We also have seen how we are domestically using the water, and how the new technologies are changing the way we use water. We have the concepts of efficient taps, we have the concepts of efficient gadgets, we have the concepts of efficient detergents. We can save the water by 80% and plus. So with these type of thoughts, I will give this floor to Madam Kalpana to take us to a journey what she is doing passionately in the place where she lives, and probably more than Hyderabad, she must be helping all citizens of India. So over to you, Ma'am Kalpana, and let us give the floor to you. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Anil ji, and thank you so much, Dr. Gulshan. Thank you so much, ICS, for this opportunity. Well, I would like to share my screen now, and I would talk about my journey of how I got connected to water. I was also just another citizen. I cannot claim that 20 years ago I thought the way I did now. But what was that connection? How did I make that connect, and how starting from an individual, how I'm working citywide is something I think the journey will resonate with many. I mean, or inspire to begin. Right. So let me just share my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I call my presentation is called The Last Mile for Water, the theme of today's talk. I also believe, I resonate with many things Dr. Gulshan and Mr. Anil has said earlier, that the future really lies in how we have managed our resources. It's not that we don't have the resources, but how have we managed them really will speak of how what's our future. So I started off my journey when we moved back in the from the US in 2000 to Hyderabad, the city where I live today. And we lived in several communities, and the only thing I was seeing is people are managing tanker water for more than 5, 6 months in a year, which is like half the year. And I was wondering, like, isn't there a solution? Are we not thinking beyond this? Are we going to live like this? So it used to bother me a lot. So wherever we lived in different communities initially, I tried to, try to bring that change, try to talk to people, but I saw that environment or anything called rainwater harvesting and all this is really not priority to many. And, they always push it back saying that, okay, let us plan next year and that. So I decided to do this in our own home when we made our own home. And you see, the courtyard of that home is the whole thing is rainwater harvesting sump. I didn't do anything technical. It's just common sense thing that how do I tap rainwater? And if this rainwater has to be there for a longer period and stored, we simply passed it through coal and sand filters. That is all, and it was even good to drink. We found that this is cleaner than many other resources that we had. And we are a lot into greenery and growing our own vegetables and stuff. So when we built this house, we also planned grey recycling with the wastewater, the black water that comes out of the commode, we separated it. The rest of the wastewater, we got some basic recycling, and we would recycle and do drip irrigation for the greenery. So that also was taken care of. So the whole thing started with a need that I want to be a tanker-free home. And I didn't know if I will achieve this, but year after year, I saw that there is no dependability on tanker. And I always happen to have enough water in the house. So just by making some small changes, this was what happened. I started a design studio in 2000. So in my design studio, whatever clients that I had, so I used to talk to them and get them to do rainwater harvesting, some factories, schools, and many other spaces, and also worked on my community. I can proudly say the last 10 years, I don't buy a single tanker. And the last 6 years, our community is also not buying common tankers in a very, very tanker-prone area. This is like the central business district in Hyderabad, the high-tech city in Gachibowli, if you know Hyderabad. So I seeded this campaign. I mean, I knew something what I could do within my home and then the community. So I started spreading word and also implementing this through the projects that I was already doing. And because we are a design firm, we also came up with different innovative solutions for urban challenging spaces, and how to work around a budget, how to understand the building footprint and solve challenges. And then because most are built structures, how do you do rainwater harvesting in them is also challenging. And there are places where they didn't want maintenance, so we had to bring maintenance free systems. So we were working on a lot of interesting projects. Until then, even I was under the impression that rainwater harvesting is only this conventional method that we had. Not really. I mean, we could bring a whole lot of innovation to this. While we were doing this is when I realized that lakes are the largest catchment for rainwater, wells and all our shallow aquifers, water bodies, and we are not paying any attention to them. And I also by then understood our city is importing water from 200 kilometers away, which is from the Godavari and Krishna rivers. And we are straining these rivers, and right now we are getting this much water. But as we move, our population is going to increase. Are we going to really erase the rivers? Are we not going to think sustainability in our own localized, local areas? That's when I thought lakes, wells, rainwater harvesting, all this is part of our water resources, and all of them need attention. So I didn't start with water quality first, but I started with building communities. I spent most of my evenings, weekends, walking to these communities around a small lake near my house, which was just 8 acres. Just had several meetings where I would connect with them and speak to them. So most of them would agree with me. But one thing I saw was, they don't have a roadmap, and neither did I have a roadmap. I mean, I just wanted to make this lake happen. Neither did I understand it much. But slowly that learning began. These were the pictures of the lake that I wanted to restore, and most of my friends still make fun of me, saying that really, where are you going to begin? And you're one person, can you see the size of the it's a 8-acre lake, and look at the kind of problems that is there. It's absolutely a dump yard where they dump market waste, and a lot of littering happens, right from dead dogs to mattresses to cables to just about anything, helmets, you just name it, and it was here. I mean, because there's no voice for this lake, there's nobody speaking for this lake. And 5 foot, 6 foot garbage on the periphery of this lake. So I started with small cleanups with government and stuff. By then, I was also engaging with the community. So this first lake restoration, while I started with this, I was very enthusiastic and wanted to talk to many more people around different lakes. So I started building communities around 5 different lakes. On the left-hand side of this, slide, you can see that I made communities remove sewage lines directly from the lake and get it into the legal sewage system, because many builders had done this. And to understand this, I had to open some 80 manholes around this lake to figure out where are the inlets. What is the problem for the lake is the sewage, that inlets that are coming in. So there were some 12 inlets to this lake, and many more connected, I mean, not directly, but indirect inlets as well. So I wanted to reduce this number of inlets. By doing this, instantly 30% of the pollution was reduced in this lake. And I started rallying, for cleanups. I mean, started with small cleanups to big cleanups. You see, there's a canoe there. I have friends who are into canoeing. So I requested them to give a couple of them to us, and we did cleanup, canoeing and cleanup. We did some interesting cleanups, because cleanups is not a happy job for everyone to do, and they won't keep coming back unless I innovate in that. So that's where the designer in me comes. I constantly think out of the box and start doing different things. So I was very encouraged when this communities moved out the thing. And while doing so much work, a new sewage line, of a new building came up. And that was a challenge, and government and many authorities also wouldn't resonate to that. And I tried to remove that line with the government authorities, and that was not happening because that builder was connected to some politician. While I thought it's negatively engaging myself to go and directly speaking to the politician, what else could I do? That's again when I thought out of the box. I went to the building and understood that it was getting ready for OYO rooms. OYO rooms is basically service apartments kind of a thing, right? So I wrote a mail to OYO, the founder in Delhi. I told them, if you're a responsible startup, you will handhold me. I've done this much work on this lake. And he resonated immediately and connected me with the Telangana OYO head. And he spoke to the builder and said, if you didn't do a legal line, we would revoke the agreement with you. And the building was already ready for OYO rooms. So within 3 days, I was able to remove that sewage line. So that means I didn't have to talk to the politician. I didn't have to go and confront anybody, but my problem was solved. So same problems may not have same solutions. It can happen differently also. And while working on this lake, I also understood the water is belonging to the irrigation department, the land is the municipality, the revenue, urban planning, and then the inlets, outlets, and all the drains around are the water board. So this was another learning, how I had to connect with different faculties to make any change. So ownerships are different. And then the people around the lake, some of them already are in the buffer zone, some of them are built in the FTL. So I have to work with people who are in the wrong footing, but I have to make them do something right. Right. So it is extremely challenging to work for the lake. There are many days I have cried, I have gone back. I mean, do I really need this? Do I really need to do this? Felt less motivated and so, but every day, next day I will get up and think, okay, if I move out of the game, is there anyone else? The answer is no. Then I said, okay, it doesn't matter. I move on. So this is how I used to do self-talking, motivate myself and do. But it was a wonderful change from what the status that you saw of the lake. We saw birds coming back to the lake for the first time. I'm telling you, that was something, I mean, I will never forget that day, because nature responds, right? So that is something I really saw, and that's an amazing feeling. So even instead of bunds, we did walkways, in wooden walk bridges and things, because why cut out the water spread? So we did some interesting pilots over here. But while I was doing all of this, I still felt the crisis is much, much bigger. I'm just doing a piecemeal job. I'm working on one lake. I'm working here and there on rainwater harvesting. By then I was driving the Save 10K boards, Live the Lakes initiative, working with people, but I'm not getting to a citywide approach. And that's what is required really. Because there's so much flooding year after year, monsoons flooding and so many tanker driven city in summers, and this cycle is not broken. I mean, it's just getting worse and worse. Now with so much water supply, the kind of wastewater that comes up, see, nobody thinks about the wastewater that's getting generated in cities. There is no solution to this, and our drain systems are collapsing. So working on a decentralized local level is what I thought is a solution that I should focus on. So here are the things that I, self-taught myself. Look at the urbanization levels from 2020. If you go towards 2050, a population probably doubles, and look at the kind of extent we are looking at. And most of our city, the groundwater is already over-extracted, over-mined. So nobody is planning to recharge, and then we have done all these encroachment, build upon, and so many impermeable surfaces where water cannot go anywhere, and the drain systems are collapsing. So these are big issues. I thought that, there's a lot more to do. We did a little case study of an area called Madhapur. This is again in the central business district. There's enough rooftops in this area to get water about 160 liters per day per person, and this has a lot of floating population also that happens here. But just this area spends more than 20 crores in tankers every year in just 4 months, 4.5 months. So how smart are we really? I mean, we are not really using the potential that we have. We're not managing the water the way it should. So my idea was fix one basin at a time. Let me, go down to a smaller section, fix one basin, or okay, basin is it's not like a river basin, but let's say it's a micro watershed. But how do I divide the city? So that's when I approached, a startup in IIIT Hyderabad, who worked with the Mission Bhagiratha and Mission Kakatiya, and they helped me. I said, break the city down for me into watersheds, where if I make an effort in that block, it should improve that block in terms of groundwater and everything else. So that's what I want to do. So they divided the city like this. There are larger watersheds, smaller watersheds. They divided the city into 98 blocks for me. And this idea came to me from the Barcelona model, right? They have the Barcelona super block model, where they broke the city into, they started working around a replicable block, where they motorized the periphery and the inner part of that was pedestrianized. So it was a successful model, and then they replicated this block model everywhere. Of course, those blocks were really blocks. Ours is an organic block, let's say, but it works. I mean, this is what I wanted to create, a replicable model block. So talking to schools, school children, because I think it's very important when you talk to kids, they take it to their homes. They make sure that this thing happen in a certain way, and also talk about it in school, resonate, inspire people. There are a lot of things that happens like a ripple effect when you talk to kids, and they're always out of the box thinkers. By the time I finish talking to them, they would have sketched a few ideas, and they're already presenting ideas to me. See, they are not talking about problems. They always think solutions. That's why I like working with kids. They always talk about what to do. They see the problem, but they don't extrapolate the problem. They look at solutions. So that is one. And connecting with communities. I started connecting with slums, and getting the lake as a fulcrum. So if you take a lake, I also realized that the entire strata of society I'm connecting to when it's the lake, the very high end to the very low end. And awareness has to be given in different ways. What I'm talking to the very high end society, I cannot talk the same thing to a slum guy in a low income group. So I need to resonate. In a slum community, I need to work with them. I need to solve their other problems so that they can come and handhold me for their, the lake. I'll talk about what I have done in this slum and what we are planning to do further. And also talking to communities, and talking about rainwater harvesting and where all can we do in the common areas. Because if you come to the main roads, it's all sewage mixed water. I don't want to do rainwater harvesting with it. But within internal communities, within the apartment blocks, internal roads, we can tap this water. So we started mapping where and how to do, and also involving communities. Around the time is when I got a fund from HDFC. That time I didn't even know how to pitch or anything. I just went and spoke my heart. I went through several rounds, and the final round was in Bangalore, and I got picked for this grant. And it was a fantastic thing because it handheld me for my plan on this replicable block. At least I could make a beginning with it. So this is what, we started mapping where to do the interventions. And these are lake communities around which I was working. Extremely challenging ground. I mean, most of it is rocky strata. So small pits, rainwater harvesting pits won't work. We need to do recharge bores, but we need to understand where to do, because it also had confined aquifers, unconfined aquifers. So there's so much learning that I have learned. I'm telling you, chemical engineering, geophysics. I mean, I cannot even tell how many angles to one thing, and it's been extremely interesting, so we started doing different interventions in different zones, what we identified. We did borewell recharge. What I did is, in each community I said, I shall give you 4 injection bores or 3 injection bores. You have to contribute for another 2 or 3, and you have to maintain all of it. If you do this, we will give this to you for free, because people like if you give something for free. But they were very enthusiastic about it. They also kind of partnered. So I made it, when I had money for 20 injection bore wells, I made it 40, because I multiplied the impact, made it bigger. So this is the first block, which is like about 10 square kilometer. And these are all the interventions that we did. We worked on a very old irrigation well. I actually, through COVID, I was distributing milk. And I found this large structure. I was wondering, what is this that is filled with garbage and horrible stench? You couldn't even stand there. Then I realized it's a well. So it took 3 months to get the permission to work on this. I mean, which is a completely abandoned place, but I had to get permission to. I said, sir, let me work on this. Maybe it revives, right? So I kind of convinced them and started working on it, because once it's revived, there's no question of closing it. So started working on it. So in the lake also, we did interesting things like doing a drain screen. We did a customized stainless steel drain screen for the inlet. So all the inlets I cut down to one inlet, which is a storm inlet, and but lot of garbage and plastics comes through it. I mean, why are we doing cleanups in the lake when we can erase this? Because by then 95% of the litter was already, littering didn't happen. We kind of erased littering. But the only thing is, it is coming through the inlet. So we had to do this drain screen. So slowly improving the lake water quality also, and working on this lake. So you can see the kind of impact. You see the lake, how it was before and how it is now. You see this large diameter irrigation well. This is about 15-meter diameter. It's a large irrigation well. It used to have a smaller well next to it. When the large well dried up, they used to draw water from the smaller well and go deeper. But that had already crusted and there was no way to open it up. So I made a little amphitheater out of it. Let's make interesting public spaces so people start respecting water, because again, we don't have enough public spaces. And just because these are lying like this, people think is their birthright to throw garbage and make this. So that's when, so last I came to water quality rejuvenation. That's when I contacted Madhukarji, and, because I thought there's 2.8 MLD sewage coming into this 8-acre lake. And I tried several attempts. I cannot even tell you how many offices have gone up and down, asking them at least to remove half the sewage, right? Okay, I also know that moving sewage is actually making it somebody else's problem. But this is too much of a concentrated sewage for an 8-acre lake. While we've done these nice things, and I even got the revetment done with a builder who lives right across there, I involved communities like that. So I said, like, water quality restoration now should happen while we've understood everything else. So I started talking to Madhukarji, and he helped us initially, and we are still, continuing with the treatment. We have, done about 3 months of treatment. I could see tremendous change in terms of bringing down the stench level. By then, we had already put some solar-powered under bubble aeration and that, but whatever we did is not really improving the quality, because we need secondary and tertiary treatment. This primary treatment, floating islands and little aeration, this is like a little eyewash here, because the amount of sewage is huge. So we needed wetlands, but wetlands, maybe treatment wetlands would have helped. But there's zero land, and it is not going to work for us because it's huge amount of money, and we had to cut down the water spread. We didn't want to do all that. So Cowonomics seemed the right way to go, where we constantly treat and improve and we've also mapped the air quality. Air quality from, AQI from 359 or 400 almost has come down to 165, 167. And probably it will keep improving as we keep. So I've seen the air quality improving, and you can see the color of water. And we did it both for the well as well as the lake as well. So you can see the difference that is happening and also the stench coming down. Of course, we have to, it's a recurring treatment. So we need to find funds to make it because there's no other choice. Your sewage is a continuous thing. So we need to figure out, but it seemed like a cheaper way and it also started working for our lake. So we had very encouraging results in our first block, 40 plus boards are rejuvenated. We keep hearing almost every day now, the boards that used to, not work beyond December are still working. And some are giving 2.5 lakh liters or 2 lakh liters a day just by improving. So what we did it in schools, we did it in parks, common areas, and we made 7 communities. We did this public participatory action. So we did these structures and also constantly encouraging the communities to do. So we have covered about 4 to 5 kilometers only, but we have done quite a bit in terms of saving water, and we've reached almost all our work through Sahi and what we have done so far. I've reached more than 6 million people, across the city, which is covered in media. See, I never went to the media to cover anything we do. It is always them coming and that's how it should be, I believe, because we are not doing work because media should cover us. I was very, very thrilled when Modi ji's, I got a call from the PMO saying that, you might be one of the women that can handle his social media handle. So I was very thrilled that somebody is even noticing something on ground. So we also support hundreds of livelihoods because this is not skilled labor, right? With skilled labor is required where we do the planning, where we do the mapping, and that these laborers, we train them on site and make them do these on site. So we have supervisors and engineers who work with us. So we've had hundreds of people who were out of jobs post-COVID. We were able to employ them beautifully. And the government support, of course, what happened with, on Women's Day, and also the Blue Hyderabad campaign was launched by the Ministry of Jal Shakti and National Water Mission on their web portal. So in the Water Conclave webinars that they had. So it is a wonderful encouragement for my work. And also we get letters from local municipalities supporting us to do rainwater harvesting in common areas or rejuvenating wells. So there have been a good support, I would say. I mean, I didn't receive any fund yet, but this is good support. I mean, once they support, I think that is good enough to take it forward. Otherwise, we cannot even move forward with this. And I still do a lot of things. I mean, we are continuing with so many, like I said, we keep giving different proposals. We are talking about rainwater harvesting near flyovers. Either you take the water and take it to your sidewalks and do rainwater harvesting there, or in the middle do injecting bores and take it deep down and restore the water, because this needs to be done, or store this water and use it for greenery with drip irrigation or what. So we've given like several proposals like this. And also I'm working on a very interesting heritage step well. This is from the Asaf Jahi period. You can see the kind of garbage that was there. It's just very pathetic, such a beautiful well structure. Just 22 years before, they were irrigating about 10 acres of land with the water from here. So right now the stairwell is closed and concrete road built upon. They have punctured the stairwell of this step well with bores. So it's a very disastrous urban story, but at least I'm glad we are able to, restore the water structure, water part of it, so that those efforts are on. So we're doing the pre-restoration now, asking for funds to people, reaching out to people and the government. And the slum that I talked about, that we worked around that lake, there is this overflow that comes into an area, and this is stagnant water throughout the year. And through summers, there are many dengue deaths. There are a lot of issues for these slum people, and there are people who come and actually drink and create a lot of problems. So, you know how I solved that problem? By getting 2 bright street lights for them. The moment those street lights came, nobody, there was these elements coming here and disturbing the women in the slum and stuff. And this stagnating water, we want to create this kind of terraced thing where you hold water and probably do wetlands in it, where water can seep in rather than a flash flood kind of a thing. So making it ready for a flood, and also do some sort of a place making, what we call, around these, so that it becomes an interesting public space. Now today they throw a lot of garbage. We don't want them to throw garbage, so what do? So we're working around plans like these. And also parks becoming rainwater harvesting zones. We have already started working on parks, and this is a larger park with a huge problem. Within 10 minutes, you can see it fills up, and there's a lot of water logging here. So we have come up with a plan, and this is another I'm working with. And this is the well that we restored, that large irrigation well. I want to do rain gardens around it. So we have plans to do like rain gardens around it, but it's a long shot. I mean, we have to keep rallying, figure out and get the road alignment, and talk to several agencies to get there. But it's become an interesting public space, and it is raising a lot of awareness around, like, so we should this is the work that I do with schools. So I don't believe in talking in monologues and showing them slides and making them sit in schools and stuff. I actually take them to these traditional water systems. I take them to a polluted lake. I tell them what did we have, what did we lose, and what is it that is there today. And believe me, children so resonate to this kind of learning rather than bookish learning. So we're also making a course for rainwater harvesting with a 5-session course where we'll have 2 or 3 field trips. And also we will teach them how to do water auditing in your own schools. I mean, with an action-oriented awareness, not just a broadcasting awareness alone. So this is something that we are working for. And like I said, government schools also, we are working to see how we can do rainwater harvesting, how we can get the funds to them, and what are the different methods, maintenance free, that we can give them. So, and also empowering plumbers. We've trained more than 50, 60 plumbers, created a portal, and tried to see how they can do. But that was not very successful. I thought 550 plumbers will become 5,000 plumbers and they will serve, because they can become ambassadors for the cause. If they learn rainwater harvesting, they can go to 10 homes where they actually work and say that they can do rainwater harvesting, and they can earn a livelihood out of it. So these are several ideas, and we keep constantly doing campaigns and challenges. My idea is to create one impactful blog. I mean, a blog where we've created an impact that can showcase not just to the city but to the country, that if we work at a local level, understand our resources locally, because it's a collective failure today. We have to come together collectively to build this action. Collectively, we can rebuild. We cannot say only the government will do or only people should. It has to be a collective action. So this is what we advocate, and that's the end of my presentation.
Wonderful, wonderful. Heartiest congratulations. It's such an amazing work. We must compliment. We both will clap for you. Yes, that's great. God bless. Anil Manocha ji. Your mic is mute, sir.
Thank you, Kalpana, for making this presentation. Very well done. And it demonstrates the actual work done at site. And the first proof of success is, you already said, nature responds. So if nature is responding back and you can see the birds coming back, so that is the proof that the water quality is coming back to normal. And though I am a technocrat and I am a water professional, so whatever we teach, whatever we teach to others or what have been taught, you have made it in real practice. And I must say that Hyderabad is a difficult terrain to work, where more than 65% of households have on-site sewage. They are not connected to main sewerage, and the issues of septage and cleaning of tanks, and then getting it cleaned and then draining those sewage into concentrated sewage into the natural water bodies is a challenge. How do we do that? And ensuring that those people, they don't discharge their sewage to the water bodies is a good initiative. And this is the major challenge which Hyderabad faces today. And I think a lot of efforts are also being taken to ensure that the sewage is connected to a grid. And I'm sure you must be the major contributor in changing the mindset of government that the complete city should be connected to the sewerage grid so that you can preserve the natural bodies. Another take from your presentation, which we always say that water could be a global problem, but the solutions are always local. Each location has a independent and different solution, and where technology may play a little role, but more role has to be played by interacting with people. And again, I will again use the word, the moment you relate and respect water, you will be able to solve the problem, and the concepts of reducing the water consumption, recycling the water, and all those things will come up. So this is a very classic example where we speak about 5 hours, not 3 hours. And the moment you respect and relate water, you will have the end result which you have shown. The other concepts of, the issue, again, you talked about slums. And I must share here that the unregulated slums pay at least 40 times the price to get a good water quality than the normal people like us. So these are the people who will really respect, and they will go all out to ensure that they get a good quality of water. And so you have taken the right moves, and the concepts of recharging the bore wells, correcting the national these irrigation tab, rainwater harvesting is very good. On the flooding, I will again see that whether we can take some model of Singapore, where we have, I should say, porous parking. We don't have a concrete parking. See, when you create a porous parking during rains, the water percolates down to the earth, so it avoids the flooding within the cities. So that is a concept probably one can thought about. The people are talking about porous cities nowadays, where you can have a sponge type of effect, where you can save this kind of water. To what extent it could be applicable, we do not know, but it can be definitely successful in certain part of the world, or certain part of the location, or certain part of the territory, to showcase that this can be done. So I will say that yes, it is very good, and you are connected with 6 million people. You are trying to bring those concepts, and this can definitely be replicated to various cities and various parts of the world. India itself, uh, all these cities probably require this, whether you talk about Punjab, whether you talk about Northeast, whether you talk about Delhi, everywhere it requires this. So good work, and keep it up. And whatever help you need from any one of us, please feel free to shout on us, and then we'll try to see whatever we can do. As a company, we do have a water factory in Hyderabad. We produce certain type of products which goes into water production. So in case something is needed, please do come back to us. We have something close to in somewhere in Patancheru, we have a operations where we make water treatment related. We have a R&D also in case you want some assistance in getting some samples. We have a R&D center in Hyderabad, in Patancheru. So any help you need from that side, please let us know. So it could be part of the corporate social responsibility which we can offer from our company. So that's all, and good work. And back to you, Gulshanji.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much, Anil Manochaji. In fact, it was a very, very innovative, creative, and something, very passionate what she's about, that kind of work. When you are passionate, you don't get tired, you don't feel, and anything is possible on this planet, whatever you want to do. So, as it is right from the beginning, I have been telling, and I'm a strong believer when I walk this planet little more than both of you. I believe schools, colleges, universities, education ecosystem, our children, our teachers. Teachers are parents also, teachers are educators also. And now, one more mile I'm walking. There are a lot of retired defense officers and defense personnel in Hyderabad, and they are also over there across the India. And in fact, with the DGR, Directorate General Resettlement, Ministry of Defense, because now 1st of February, Nirmala Sitharaman ji announced the budget, and 2nd February we have started the campaign. The whole month we have moved in, and now we are going to the second stage. The 100 Scenic schools which have to come up in PPP mode in India. Over there, under that 100 Scenic schools, what should be the structure? What should be the operation, administration, management, everything ecosystem we are developing. And I'm getting all the principals together on this platform. I'm so proud of them. Army, Navy, Air Force, they all are coming. So we have got a very strong regimentation as far as your Hyderabad is concerned, your Sikandrabad is concerned, and we have got a lot of soldiers, and there's the Army Wives Welfare Association, there's Air Force Wives Welfare Association, there's a Retired Defense Officers and Jawans Association. There are a couple of other things we can take as a task with you on this journey. So as an elder brother, I send you my blessings. Keep doing good job. You're doing wonderful job. And Kalpanaji, our best wishes to you. And Anilji has already offered, and he has given that he has got a base over there. And I will make sure he doesn't charge any money. Whatever he gives to you, it has to come complimentary. I'm making it a public announcement over here in a very polite way. We would support your cause because Anilji at heart is very, very strong, and he has got strong valves of his heart, and he'll be contributing whatever best can be done for the country, for the world, the global part. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming this evening, and regards to both of you. So green morning, green afternoon, and green evening. Whatever time zone